with the brush tool, if you go over here and click on the brush tool, you'll see that you have the paintbrush tool, the blob brush tool, and the pencil tool. We're going to cover the paintbrush tool and the blob brush tool today as an introduction. So let's start with the paintbrush tool. If you click that and you just drag, it's going to draw a stroke. You can use a tablet or a mouse, whatever you want. If you want to change the stroke, you see when you select it, it has all of its anchor points and path, and you can create or change the color. You also see that it doesn't have a fill. You can add a fill to the shapes that the paintbrush tool created, and there you have an abstract piece of art. I'm going to go ahead and leave the fill off for now. If you change the color of the stroke, then when you go back to the paintbrush tool, or B, you'll see that everything is now in that color that you changed it to. Well, now my abstract art looks a little bit more like a kindergarten drawing. Okay, so this is obviously a fairly basic brush that we're showing. It's probably like the default. Up here it tells us what it is, the 5-point round brush. If you want to change your brush, you can go up here. You can see that there's a thicker brush. That would be like that. Or some specialty brushes. This one's like a charcoal. And then of course there's these other type specialty ones which would have this effect. Now, if you go to these 3 handy lines, as usual, it opens something up and you can create a brush. You can go down to your brush options or your brush library, which will open your default ones that are included. And again, you can always add them. If you Google it, you can find lots of brushes that you can download and use in Illustrator to create all sorts of wild creations. Let's go ahead and check out what the ink brushes are. And you can see here, let's move this out of the way, that we have all sorts of options. Let's go ahead and try this brush out. We might need to clear some space so that we can see what we're drawing. So let's just drag it all and delete and go back to brush B, go to the paintbrush we want to try and draw. That's pretty neat, nifty little line there. And just like any of the other tools, once it's drawn, it's still completely customizable. We can change the color, we can change the path by using the direct selection tool. You can select the path, you can see the handles pop up, I can change the handle, I can change where the anchor is, I can change the path. Hit V to get back to selection and click. Let's get rid of these. If we were drawing something, paintbrush, go back to brush with our brush here, and we were just trying to create a shape of some kind maybe. You'll see that even after you draw it, it's still a path. It's a bunch of squiggly lines. This is where the blob brush provides the magic. So if you go back to the brush tool and you select the blob brush tool or Shift B, then you will see it's the same size tool, looks the same, but if I draw a similar path, staying on top like that, they look kind of the same. But if you click on it or hover over it, you'll see the big difference. This is a line and this is now a shape. This is super handy because you can adjust the size of it like that. You can add a stroke. Something, more strokes so we can see it. And this one is handy in other ways when you want to still be able to adjust the lines and the shape. And this one, you can see the anchor points are around the edges, but not throughout the middle. That's the big difference between the paintbrush and the blob brush. The blob brush is basically creates a blob where you can add a fill and a stroke and the paintbrush is more like a traditional paintbrush that you would draw a line with. If you double click a tool in the toolbar, a bunch of options come up. So let's try it with the blob brush. Double click and you can see you can change the fidelity, how smooth, accurate it is. You can change the size, angle, roundness. One little checkbox here that can be handy is keep selected. So as you can see, when we finished drawing with the blob brush or the other brush, it's not selected. It immediately lets me go and draw another one, which is often what I want it to do. But sometimes I'm drawing something where I want to just keep drawing on the same path. So if I go back in and select keep selected, you will see that when you draw something and you let go, it's still selected. So if I go back and I draw some more, it just adds right to it. Same thing with the paintbrush. If you go back to the paintbrush tool and you double click on it, you have a menu similar to the other one, and you can select, keep selected. And when you draw something with your paintbrush tool, it's still selected. If you go back and keep going, it will continue right where it left off as one path. So practice using the paintbrush and the blob brush tool and experiment to your heart's content. Head on over to ktdesignacademy.com to check out my latest freebies, my books, and some more free videos.